hide your face. And I'm gonna turn this over to Joe. He's gonna give a presentation. Um, he asked that all the questions be asked at the end, so we're gonna save some time for questions and answers. If you want to put some comments in the chat box, you're welcome to. Hey, Stuart, can you ask Joe to elaborate a little bit on this, a little bit on that? But I want to share something with you, and I love irony. Okay, so I find things ironic. So hopefully you can see my screen. And I want to share this guy with you.
Not because I have.
Got another person coming in. Try again, and then we'll start.
How many that you've ever made in a single year? I sold my business for $115 million on December 21st, 4 days before Christmas, 2021. That's a crazy Christmas present. It was. As a nine-figure entrepreneur, what is the best financial decision that somebody can make in today's world? Get into Section 8 real estate right now. The reason I say Section 8 real estate is that people live with the delusion that they need hundreds of thousands of dollars to become a real estate investor. The beautiful thing about this asset class is our average price per property is under $100,000. And it also produces higher than average cash on cash returns because the federal government overpays on the rent to incentivize landlords to create more low income housing. And so if you're watching this, get out of the financial slave mindset, and instead of taking your earned income and spending it directly on your lifestyle, take your savings and put that savings into an appreciating cash flowing asset that is going to pay you every month to earn it. And at that exact moment is when you will become financially free, and you get to do this very, very cool thing, which happened for me a long time ago as a result of investing in real estate. I do things because I want to, not because I have to. Most of you do things because you have.
Okay, I just want to share that with you. So talk about irony. Someone sent. I saw that Instagram. I'm like, I want to play this for this webinar. I don't know
You
about
let
this.
him have your, did you let him borrow your shirt?
Yeah, I'm not sure Mike or I can fit in that kid anymore. Um, so okay, I'm going back about a year, maybe 18 months ago. I enjoy going to networking groups where there's other people who are investing. Patrick O'Sullivan put one on for Get Multifamily, if you know where that is. He did it down on rural in Tempe. It was a madhouse. He had more people than he had seats for. It was very crowded. I'm sitting next to my friend Art Scott, and this guy walks up to me and says, Stuart Gethner, I took your class and you taught me some about learning about real estate. Do you remember this, Joe? And
Yeah.
it's Joe, and I was like, man, Joe O'Brien, I remember you. And I'm like, Joe, what do you do? And he's like, well, man, I've been rental properties, I've been buying fourplexes, I've been doing it with seller financing, and I'm
Yeah.
specialized in doing it in Section 8. I'm like, Section 8? Let me tell you, I got these three tenants, but is that all you focus on? He goes, well, I have regular rentals as well, but really, I'm on Section 8. And I said, we got to get together. And so he has taught me a ton about and educated me about how this works. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity for you if he shared that with you. So Joe, go ahead and start sharing your screen. Again, if you guys don't mind waiting for questions at the end or put them in the chat box, I'll turn it over to Joe. And again, nothing to sell, nothing to buy. I know when Joe works with his clients, he makes sure that he works with them from start to finish, and he promised me he'd leave nothing out. So
Yeah.
Joe, take it away.
How is everybody doing?
Thank you, sir.
I
Very good.
am, thanks, Stuart, for having me. I appreciate it. I love talking about real estate. I started my real estate journey way, way back. Started with cleaning beach cottages with my mom in Long Beach Island. She was a special ed teacher, and in the summer, she had a summer job with some of her girlfriends, and we cleaned beach cottages on Long Beach Island. So that's how I got started in real estate. I love beach houses. And I just realized that I loved everything about real estate. I just didn't know how to monetize it. Fast forward, I go to college to be a physical therapist. I go through all the motions of that competitive environment in school. And on my last day of physical therapy school, I'm giving back my apartment, and I go into the management office, and long story short, my dad missed his flight, so I was a day late. Everybody left. Um, so I was the only person that then turned in their keys that day, and it was after college was all done. Um, I actually ran into the owner of the apartment complex that, landlocked Damon College to the north. And very interesting conversation. Told him I was moving to Phoenix and, going to be already had a job interview. And he's like, "Hey, you're going to Phoenix?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, that's a boom town. You need to buy everything you can get your hands on." And that was in 2000. So I started my real estate journey in 2001, 2002, bought my first rental property in Tempe, and I still own it and rent it out today. So, and I've just been learning, acquiring knowledge as I go. I, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, started from there. We got a real estate license, help other people, but mainly I just buy rental property for myself. And I've just kind of adapted and kind of fell into this Section 8 thing over time. And it's actually become pretty popular, obviously, with Stewart's intro with the guy who stole his shirt. You know, there's a lot of those guru guys out there. I think he's one of the guys that actually teaches one of the courses or sells courses for $5,000. And, they aim for the Midwest and, the South. And it's a good concept, but during my presentation here, we'll go through the exact things that you need to do and know for Section 8. Okay. So I'm going to jump right in. So I am Joe, the real estate pro. I'm a local, like I said, I'm a local agent out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I own 25 doors currently, and 22 of them are under the Section 8 program. Um, I have Section 8s in Maricopa County, I have the city of Phoenix, and I have one in Tempe. And I've actually helped a couple clients work on a few of them in Mesa. So I'm pretty familiar with the local area. If you're from out of state or you're listening in from out of state, most of the Section 8s are pretty much the same. They might throw the inspection in before you do the RAFTA. Each housing authority does things different, but I'm going to break it down pretty much step by step. There may be, with your out of state housing authorities, there may just be, just a change in order in the steps. So, but at the end of the day, all the steps have to be there to complete, this transaction. So hopefully I can demystify that a little bit and kind of, make everybody feel a little bit more comfortable. Okay. And I'll please hold your questions to the end and I'll be happy to answer everything. All right. So let's click here. All right. So the title of my webinar is Leveraging Your Rentals Using Section 8. So my clients, I teach beginning clients how to buy rental properties, but then I also have other clients too who have, 15 doors, 10 doors. I have a client who has 80 doors. So this webinar and this teaching is kind of for everybody. So it's all the same. It doesn't matter if you have one door or 100. So leveraging your rentals using Section 8. And so how does the system work? Okay, so Section 8 is a federal program through HUD, and it gives or awards housing vouchers to low-income individuals, families, veterans, and people with disability. Okay, so they have to apply, and these vouchers then are rewarded. The money comes from the federal government, and then it trickles down into each housing authority, and then the housing authority has XYZ dollars, and they then spread it out to the people of their community that are in need. Okay. So it kind of just trickles down. Okay. So the tenant is awarded a voucher from the housing authority. Then the tenant reaches out to landlord and property managers. They have this thing called a RAFTA um, packet. So then they, after they're rewarded that, they have to go out and find their own property. So here's where all the difficulties and the process will then help. We'll start on peeling back the onion of this process. Okay. So step one, they get their voucher, and then they're basically thrown to the wolves and said, "Hey, we need to go find a property." So the question really is, since we are more on the landlord side, well, how do we find them? So this is the system how we're going to do it. So an overview: tenants were awarded the voucher. The tenant reaches out to the landlord slash property management. Property management or the owner then starts the screening process. If they pass the screening process, you fill out the RAFTA, which is the whole packet. We'll go through that. Then you submit it to the housing authority. The housing authority will turn around and give you then a rental offer. The owner slash property manager will then accept it. And then the property is then scheduled for an inspection. Now, in other states, I have heard that sometimes they do the inspection and write notes on the property before they will approve and give you an offer on the RAFTA. I'm using the City of Phoenix approach. They will give you the offer first and then inspect the property. Then what happens after the property passes inspection, you sign and submit the lease, you exchange keys for the deposit, the tenant gets possession, and then the owner slash manager signs the HAP contract, which literally comes down from the federal government, passed through to the city housing authority, and you get paid. Then you finally get paid. Okay. So that's kind of the flow. So keep that in mind. Okay. So how do we advertise? How do we advertise Section 8 rentals? Oh, and I spelled advertising wrong. Oh, well. How do we advertise? You advertise them on Zillow, Redfin, apartments.com. A pretty popular one out here is housingsearchaz.com. That's a housing search that's local to the Phoenix Housing Authority that's filled with nothing but scams. And then there's I would call the gold mine, which is affordablehousing.com. Okay. But with your regular first Zillow, Redfin, and apartments.com, market your property just like you would anything else. But in the keywords, I would write Section 8 welcome or Section 8 is welcome to apply. Then the next website here is affordable housing. I like this website. You can put they have a free version or they have a paid version. For the free version, you can put your listing up and you put pictures up, you can write about the deposit, you can write about the requirements to move in, and you put your information in and you can respond to messages and then eventually get someone out of that website and then talk to them, directly. Okay. And that's free. There's a paid version, which you can do a few more other features. So, okay. So we have a property for rent. A tenant reaches out. We turn around and we start the screening process. Most people run background checks. To my experienced landlords who are watching, we all run background checks. We take the application. We take copies, driver's license, social security numbers, stuff like that. So what do you look for in the screening process? I look for credit score. With Section 8 properties, or Section 8 tenants, if the credit scores are normally not that good. So that's your first indication of what you're going to have to deal with, but don't take the credit score for the only thing that you look at. If you're going to take a Section 8 tenant and you're expecting a 650 credit score, you're probably not going to take too many of them or even see one. I think the highest I've ever seen is a 625. So if you're based on credit score, probably Section 8 is not going to be for you. There's always medical bills and repossessions and just a lot of things going on. So the second thing that I look for, and this you can find in the RAFTA packet, is the tenant's portion of their rent and the making sure that they have the correct voucher size. So in that RAFTA packet, there is a HUD form, and it'll tell you how many bedrooms they have, what voucher they have. So
Hey, Joe, I just want to interrupt you. I apologize. Some people don't know what a RAFTA packet is, so can you explain that, please?
it's basically RAFTA packet is the resident tenant owner agreement. So basically, it's a whole packet about the tenant and how much they have to pay and what their income is and their voucher size. And then there is a long packet of paperwork about the property. It'll ask you the parcel number, when it was built, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, basically filling out, everything about square footage, if it has a washer and dryer. It's just a lot of, it's just a work packet that Section 8 needs. Okay. Hopefully, did that explain that? Cool.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So in the screening process, I always make sure that I'm looking at those. Okay. I'm making sure, because you don't want someone renting a 3-bedroom house with a 2-bedroom voucher, because they're not going to pay you the 3-bedroom amount. They're only going to pay you the 2-bedroom amount. And we'll get into that. Okay. So one thing that I look at is I'm always looking at evictions and car repos. And car repos is one of my telltale signs, whether or not to take a tenant or not. I don't really take tenants that have a car repo who are on the Section 8 program. It just shows that, they can't make their bills. And if they have a rent portion, they may fall behind on you. So, you just have to ask a lot of questions. And that's just one of those red flags for me. Evictions, if there's more and more evictions coming, every day, Maricopa County, we're past the COVID syndrome. So, all those moratoriums have lifted. There's been a lot of evictions. I do not take somebody if they have had a Section 8 eviction. I will not take them if they had a Section 8 eviction. I will look at it and do a deeper dive if I find an eviction on their credit report that was pre-Section 8. So let me just backtrack what that is before people want to ask that question. Is Section 8 sometimes takes 2, 3 to 4 years to get on. There's a huge waiting list for them. So a lot of stuff happens with these tenants, unfortunately, before they get this RAFTA packet and their Section 8 voucher. So that's why you do see low credit scores, and you do see a lot of judgments and stuff. Okay. And then the last thing that I look for is, I always ask the question, is what other adults are going to be there that are not on the lease or on the voucher? This is a very, very important step, because sometimes a lot of these tenants are not married and they have a significant other that does live with them, but they will tell you that it's not on the voucher. And if you don't ask that and you put an adult person on the lease, Section 8 will then deny the whole process, even after you've gone through the whole process. So you have to be very, very careful. But then one of the things I say is right up front is definitely ask, who is going to be staying here if they're not on the lease. Okay. So filling out the rafter, the request for tenancy approval is the official name of that. What we need to fill out with the rafter, and here's the thing. It's the rental property breakdown information. So your parcel number, maybe your deed number. Out here in Maricopa County or in the greater Phoenix area, you have to make sure that that property is registered as a residential rental. So you have to provide proof to that. You have to then ask on the RAFTA form the rental amount, the charges and the breakdown of those charges. So such as the breakdown of the security deposit, breakdown of all the move-in, move-out fees, cleaning fees, parking fees, etc. Then you have rental comps, and I have those. I have that starred next to with the dollar signs. That is probably one of your most important things in filling out the RAFTA form is your rental comps. Okay. And then you need the signature of all parties, the ownership, and then the LLC W-9 banking information, because what Section 8 does is they don't mail checks anymore. They direct deposit into your bank accounts, at least their portions. Okay. All right. So we'll go back to, we're going to talk right now about the rental comps. Like I said, most important, Section 8 runs off something, and if you go to HUDuser.gov, you can look at the HUD breakdown of rental property by bedroom, by zip code through the whole country. So take a zip code in Phoenix here, 85032. You can go to HUD user, it will break it down. You select Phoenix, you go down to that zip code. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom. So if the 3-bedroom is fair FMR or fair market rent is $2,500, let's say, you can ask that amount. Just know that the FMR first includes the utilities, which is the water, sewer, and trash, and the power. That gets deducted out if you so choose. And we can talk about that. But most importantly, again, the rental comps. So you have to find 3-bedroom rental comps that are unassisted, not by Section 8, that match up to your property type and rental requests that you're asking for. So if the rental comps are only coming in at $2,200 a month and you're asking $2,600, $2,700, you probably will not get that. So knowing your rental comps in the area and then knowing what your FMR in the area is drilled down to those zip codes and those bedroom counts is the key to Section 8. And I'm going to go off on my little soapbox about the guys who wear fancy shirts and the online gurus about that. They really kind of do a disservice to the people on social media who are wanting to get into this. They claim that you can get an $80,000 house, in the Midwest, and their FMR for that area is, $1,700, and your payment would only be, $600 to $700. You got to add in property management and maintenance, and they always lower those costs. But just because the FMR says what it says on HUD user doesn't mean that the rental comps are there to support it when you drill it down into the zip code. So that's really the secret sauce, is you have to know your rental comps, and you have to know your rental amount in that in a specific area. And that's what, one of the things that I do for my clients is I help them figure all that out. Okay. So we do all this, we send it in, they send us an approval, we get the offer of acceptance, and then the city comes out and does an inspection. You have to have the power on, they check the hot water heater, they check all the appliances, make sure the stove works, make sure the microwave works. If there's a refrigerator in the unit, they make sure the refrigerator is working. It's no different than a regular home inspection that you would run through if you were gonna, buy a property, Then after that, the key, after it passes, the tenant gets the keys, the deposit is exchanged. So then you switch the utilities into the tenant's name if that's what your RAFTA and lease agreement agree to, and your FMR would be adjusted accordingly. And I always recommend, if you can, do not pay for the utilities for the tenants. And the FMR may look a little better, and they may offer you to get a little bit more money, but don't do that, because then you can't regulate, water flow. You can't regulate temperatures on thermostats. And, obviously out here in the summer in Phoenix, it can get to 115 on days, and you don't need your air conditioner running at 73 degrees. It will eat up all your cash flow. So, okay. And then you submit your lease to the housing authority, and then you wait, because sometimes it takes them 45 to 60 days to return that HAP contract and get you, then starts getting you paid. Then the rents start coming in monthly. After you get through all that, that's easy. Then the rents just start coming in. But the nice thing is they do make you wait, but Section 8 will pay you from the day that it passes inspection or the day that you write the lease to start. And most will allow the lease to start the day the property passes the inspection, unless there's a restriction on the tenant, such as they're moving out, at the end of the month, so they can't start a new one until the 1st. So kind of the caveats of that. And then that's pretty much it. if you think that's the easy part, but it's, that's the hard part. That's the sauce in there. So, and then here's some of my contact information. My website, realestatejoe.org. There's my phone number. You can also find me on all the social medias, and be happy to help with questions. And then hold on once. Yeah, here's my last slide. I just threw this in here today. We were talking about this before everybody came on, Stuart. The availability of subsidized housing declining over the past 2 decades. So this is 2004, and you can just see that down to 2020, and I don't know why it cut it off, but it was a dramatic drop. So it's a real problem. It's a real problem that's coming. We have a real affordability housing crisis, that's already here. The federal government is already about 4 million units short. So I believe that this is a lucrative opportunity, and this is one of the strategies that I have used, with the guaranteed income, to be able to scale to 25 doors. So.
Okay, so Jonathan has his hand raised. So before I get
sure.
I have a favor to ask you, and I have a favor to ask everybody. Joe, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen so we can see your face. But can you put your contact information in the chat box so that everybody can get to it right when you're done? Hey, Tamara, I just saw you right now. E.T., how are you? And if anybody else would like to put their information, not going to spam you. We already have your email address because you've registered for this. But if you want to reach out to Joe, or you want to get a hold of Joe, put a note in the contact. Okay, so first I saw Jonathan's hands, and then I got a question from Todd. So John, why don't you go first, and then I'll ask Todd's question.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joe. Great talk. It was very insightful. So I'm struggling with just finding very first step, just finding a tenant who is in the Section 8 program. What I've heard is the waiting list has been closed for like a year and a half, and it was open for a few months a year and a half ago, and then before that it was closed for like 4 years. So I'm just wondering, like, what percentage of your Section 8 tenants come from each of the avenues you talked about? Do you do just websites? Do you have for rent signs? And of the websites, I think you mentioned affordable housing was your favorite, but
Yes.
I've had mine listed on affordable housing. Maybe my listing just sucks, or maybe I need to pay for it. But I think one person has reached out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so yeah. What advice do you have?
So are you on the free version?
Free version, yeah.
So on the free version, I don't know if you can message uh, prospective tenants back and forth. Um, and I think
I can,
also,
yeah,
okay, you can.
but they have to reach out, and maybe I'm not that visible if I'm not paying. Maybe they promote the ones
Right,
that pay.
right. So when you put your listing on the free version, okay, you then each day start dropping down in rank. And I don't know if on the free version, if you're allowed to then reboost it back up to the top. So
Gotcha. No,
there's
it
strategy.
asks me to pay to boost it. So
Yeah, there's
I'm sure
strategies that
now.
I teach when and how to boost, how, what to do, how to market your listing. Um, I think, if you think your listing sucks, I would edit it a little bit. Are you self-managing?
Yeah,
Okay.
self-managing.
Maybe let them know that. I'll give you that free tidbit. Let them know that it's not a property manager. Let them know that you're local self-manager and you live local. And maybe I would think your phone would ring a little bit more.
Oh, like put that in the listing. Okay,
I would
sure.
I put it right in the listing. Yeah. And there's certain things that, I do and teach that, I could happily show you. Um, for more advanced, yeah, things that you can do. So,
Gotcha. So
yeah.
would you say like 90% of your tenants come from affordablehousing.com
Yeah,
or
I would say that probably about 85, 80. And then there's, Zillow. Zillow always has a couple, Zillow
okay,
has a couple and, Redfin too, they're kind of the same. Zillow a little bit more. There are, more people will jump on Zillow before they jump on Redfin. So,
gotcha.
you know,
And do you do
um,
for rent signs in front of the properties ever or no?
I personally don't do that. That's just
Okay.
one strategy that
So yeah,
I
I guess
just
I'm
don't
just
do.
yeah.
I just have my reasons for not doing that.
Well, if you can get the bandwidth with affordable housing, then you don't need to. That's great.
Right.
Clearly, I'm doing something wrong. So
Yeah.
thank you. Maybe I'll consider
Yeah. Reach
hiring
out.
you or something.
You
Yeah,
can reach out to me through my website. If you want to book a call, we can do a little strategy session. That'd be cool. Be happy to help.
sounds good.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
oh yeah, no, we're not done. So before I get to Marcus raised his hand, Joe put a question in the sorry, Todd put a question for Joe in the chat box. Joe, can you please explain how the decline that you were talking about, how does that help investors?
Well, that means there's more of a pool of these. There's more of a pool of these tenants. There's about 5 million tenants nationwide that are looking for housing currently and don't have it. They don't have the units aren't there. The property managers aren't taking them. Other landlords are not taking them. So it's becoming a problem. So as the affordable housing price, or the units available come down, if you have those units, that means your rent is going up and you have a better slew of tenants. And, like I was telling Jonathan, if you do the right marketing techniques to these people, you will keep your places full.
Okay,
And
perfect.
there's
No,
not a
that,
lot of choices, and we'll get into this. There's not a lot of choices, Todd, for these tenants. So your occupancy stays longer. It's a longer range. I mean, what kills most, rental property owners? It's a vacancy or a trash property or a combination of the both. That's death's door right there. So if you can have your system in place to where your property is not getting trashed, but you don't have a vacancy for 5 years, that's amazing.
A bigger
outstanding.
peephole.
Thank you.
Sure. Oh, we'll keep going. So Marcus, you had your hand raised, then we got a question from Jackie. Go ahead, Marcus.
Okay, yeah, I've got actually three questions, so I'm
Free,
to start with one and then drop one to someone else.
one free one.
All
No,
right.
just go ahead, have at it.
All right.
All right, so Joe, when you're looking for properties, do you go in with a desired cash flow amount in mind?
Yes and no. I'm a little bit more advanced in my property searching, so my criteria has now narrowed down. So I do want a certain amount of cash flow. And it's a great question, and I'm going to answer it based off the Phoenix numbers. The Phoenix numbers here are tight, especially with 7% interest rates with our costs per unit. If we're looking at a single family house, let's just call it a little 3-2 in the greater Phoenix area, 1,100 to 1,500 square feet. Those will cost you, $329 to $365 in the affordable range. Rents on those are about $2,500. The interest rates that you're going to pay anywhere between 6, maybe 7, minus your points or whatever. Those numbers, just putting 20% down, are tight. So cash flow is more created by the amount of money you put down. And then over time, when you get your rent increases, that's where you'll acquire your cash flow. But really what I'm looking also for is more value add or more of an appreciation play. I like to buy them a little bit below market or very close to retail in this market, and then really just hit the seller for some closing costs, and take the property up in price a little bit, and then negotiate some closing costs so I can pay, a lesser rate for the property.
Okay.
So,
That's because I'm in it for cash flow. So I know you appreciate the appreciation, but we don't really realize the appreciation until we either sell or do a cash out refi. I'm in it for the cash flow. Marcus, please go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, you're good. So my next question here would be, how do you see the new administration impacting Section 8?
I don't see them really touching it. He kind of scared everybody last night or the other night about doing the freezing and everything, and Medicare and Social Security and individual benefits. They fall. Government housing and HUD is pretty much up there with Social Security and Medicare. And I don't really think that the administration is really going to destroy it, wipe it out. They may cut it, they may not allow it to expand as much. We might not see maybe new vouchers coming, but at the end of the day, the Section 8 program, I believe, is the safety net of this country. It's, we have ultra rich, but we also have ultra poor. And you could look at some of the statistics on USA, USA.org. Most of the Section 8 recipients only earn about $10,000 to $15,000 a year. And at rent at $2,500, $1,800, some of the numbers that we see out here for units, that goes pretty quick. So nobody wants to see an increase in homelessness in this country, and we're already on the rise with that. So I think that they would definitely look twice about really coming after this program. And it's been installed since 1937. So it's got some time behind it.
Got some roots. And Marcus, before we get to your third question, I'm just going to jump in because Jackie has been waiting.
Yeah,
She asks, how often do your Section 8 tenants move out? And then we'll come back to Marcus.
Oh, great question, Jackie. Hardly ever. Hardly ever. Because first of all, I give them a quality place to live. So, and I self-manage and I have my systems in place. So they have it really, really well. But you have to work on that. You know, if you don't take care of the property or you don't set those systems in place and those standards, yeah, you'll have some vacancies. But for the most part, if Section 8 tenants are happy and doing well, they're not going to go. They're not going to move because, again, they have to put up a deposit, okay, for the property. And then they don't make a lot of money, but, how much are deposits? They don't have that excess of money to float, to buy, to give someone else a deposit. And I'm going to pick on you, Michael, because you're right below me on the screen. They don't, if a tenant's going to leave me and go to Michael, and Michael's going to charge, a $2,500 deposit, and I already have an $1,800 deposit with them, they have to go give Michael that $2,500, then move out. Arizona laws here says I have up to 14 days to redo, to send them back that security deposit, with a itemized list. That's a lot of floating of money for them that they don't have. So I don't see a lot of vacancies. Thanks for the question, though, Jack.
That's a great question. Marcus, did you want to follow through? Because I got a couple of questions too for you, Joe.
Yeah, me too.
yeah. This is a question for actually, I guess, both of you. Stuart, in the beginning, you mentioned there was a builder friend of yours who built, was it condos that are Class A?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, does it ever make sense financially to build lower income housing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a question we're all asking ourselves, scratching our head. And obviously the proof is in the pudding, right? If it was worth it, wouldn't they be doing it? And I know the city of Phoenix, the legislature, they passed a ordinance or something where they were gonna build affordable housing. I don't know if you follow this, but I follow this. And then somehow or another it got tabled. So that's not happening. So probably politics all over. What are your thoughts, Joe?
Yeah,
It's a Mike.
they builders who are building right now, there's, with the cost and with interest rates and holding costs and permit costs and city costs and, hard costs like bringing power and upgraded sewer to the area. Infrastructure is costly, and it's very, very costly. And the labor cost and the cost to building something that's affordable or for affordable housing, very difficult because, builders have to make money too. So where do they make their money? And currently they're only making money in the higher end type A luxury properties, that they're trying to fill. And then, that's where their net operating income then can work and flow. And so I don't see, a lot of affordable housing coming up, except with when the city jumps in and subsidizes it and sells those tax credits to bigger corporations or to bigger individuals or developers who then can go out and raise the money, for their investors. And Stuart can talk about this. If you're actually creating a affordable housing project and the city allows you so many tax credits, you could sell those tax credits to your investors. And that is an added advantage. Mm-hmm. But that's a lot of steps.
So before I get to Michael Corge's question, Michael, I have a favor to ask you. Would you put your contact information in the chat box? because Michael's my go-to guy for hard money lending. He's one of the principals of LM2 Investments. I would say he owns the bank. So if any of you wanted to learn more about short-term financing, Michael Korchich is your man. So, and Michael, while you're doing that, go ahead, let me ask your question.
Yep. I'm typing this in here. Oh, who's on the question?
Did you have a question? I thought you said you had a
I
question.
did, yeah. So, Joe, just to back it up all the way to the beginning, you've got to find, because the Section 8, it's a Section 8 tenant, not a Section 8 property, right?
Right.
Right.
Any property, yeah. Any property will qualify for Section 8, except for a mobile home that does not own the land under it. So anything in, Mesa or, those South Scottsdales where there's a land lease, Section 8 will not rent there.
Or an
Got it.
apartment.
So ideally, you have a property and you're looking for Section 8 tenants to put in your property.
Yes.
And so if you're starting from square one and you don't own any property, you've got to go find a property. And then the sweet spot you mentioned would be properties valued between $365,000 with rents in the 2,000 to 2,500 max type of range.
Yeah, about 2,500 max.
So is that the process to put it all together?
Yeah, in Phoenix, one of the most desirables are the 3-bedroom units. So, and most people who have a 3-bedroom unit or a voucher are looking for a 3-bedroom house. So common. So affordability in the city of Phoenix, 329. And I'm talking decent areas. I mean, we can go shop and find stuff in the more, type C properties, but I like to stay in the B's and the B minuses. And just because they'll appreciate better, you can create your cash flow by down payment, or come in with 1031 money. But then to Jackie's question is, then how often do you have tenants move out? That's also one of my strategies is I like not A neighborhoods, but I don't like C neighborhoods because, C neighborhoods, you're not going to get the value and you're only just going to deal with problems the longer you own it. I like those B minus B neighborhoods, starter homes.
Got it. And then as far as the amount of assistance they get, is that, how do you know that? How do you find that out? Say you have a house, a 3-2.
Great question.
Right. And
yeah, great question. I probably, was a Dallas Cowboy fan during my presentation here, and I fumbled that.
That's okay.
I fumbled that part. I did. I realized after I passed it. So with their rental portion, it is broken down by their income, how much money they make, and they are capped at 30% of their income.
Okay.
So if they make $1,000 a month, they can only pay $300 towards rent. Now, if you make them pay the utilities, that is part of the 300. So then it breaks from there. So if your utilities cost you $200 a month, then their portion will be $100 a month to you. And then the city will pick up the remaining.
And what's the max? Like, can you earn too much money to qualify for?
Yes, and if you do, then yeah, you're off. You're off the program. And I don't know exactly what number that is. I think it's 38,000, but I can get that number to you.
Okay.
Some of them, but then there's difference, because it all depends. And this is a little bit more advanced where, then there's HUD VASH and then there's Home Inc. And then there's different types of Section 8 as you get into it. So some are more protected than others. It's just weird. The government will never give you a straight line. It's always it's a roller coaster. But sure. Yeah, and it just depends on, and that's an advanced thing that you don't really need to know. But that's why some people's portions are different.
Got it. Got it. So if the max income limit would be 38,000 and one third of that can be off the voucher, the most someone could get is 900 some odd dollars to go towards any type of rent.
Yeah.
Max, right? Is that
Yeah.
in the ballpark? Okay. Okay.
Yep.
You know, I want to compliment and expand a little bit on Joe and Jonathan's question. Finding tenants. This is what I've found out. Even though I own the property, I tell everybody I'm the property manager. So I have the good cop, bad cop, right? So I'm the good guy. Oh, you want to paint the walls black? Sounds good to me. Let me ask the owner. Yeah, the owner said no. But one of the things I learned when interviewing, and Joe touched on this, if you tell them that you're the owner, here's what I've learned. Everybody's got a story, right? And we all have stories. And folks that are on Section 8, for whatever reason, they have a challenge. And so they're wanting to talk to the owner instead of the property management company because they're thinking the owner will listen and maybe have some empathy, as opposed to the property management company where everything is just black and white. So when Joe mentioned that you're the owner, I think that's a gold nugget. I would say worth the price of admission to tonight's webinar, because if you get to know what their challenge is, then they will open up, and you may have an excellent tenant on your hands. And also, I want to compliment Joe because he taught me. I own a property with some business partners off of like 48th Street, just south of McDowell, north of Van Buren. It's a 3-2 house, one of those red brick houses. And honest to God, we're getting $2,800 a month in rent. And to me, that's a lot of money. And that's probably, I don't want to say above market, but when I showed you that video in the beginning where the guy said, "And the government will pay above market rates," it wasn't always like that. But as you saw the graph that Joe showed where it was declining, they needed something to do. And for a while there, you may find this hard to believe, the city of Phoenix was giving a $2,000 bonus for every new lease that you signed up on Section 8. Now they have stopped, the funds ran out, but I must have picked up two or three $2,000. Hey, Joe, we only have a few minutes left. Can I ask you a couple of questions? Have you ever had to do an eviction on a Section 8 tenant?
No, actually,
Mhm.
no. I have not, because if they are on the Section 8 program and you have to file for an eviction, they will lose their voucher for life. So it's never gotten past the 5-day notice for me.
Can you explain to me why I thought there was this stigma attached to Section 8 tenants? There seems to be this stigma, and
Yeah.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
What is it that people have this challenge with? What do you think?
Yeah, there is stigma because, they feel that it's a lower class of tenant because they're on government assistance. So there is an old stigma about it, and into the projects, and then you have to deal with the cities, and the housing authorities, and you're calling them and emailing them, and you're waiting weeks and no phone call back, and you don't know what you're doing. I mean, and we're blessed out here that the city of Phoenix Section 8 is phenomenal out here. But, Stuart, you could attest to this, Cincinnati, their housing authority. So the stigmatism really goes both ways. I mean, you're dealing with lower income tenants and you're dealing with the red tape of the government and trying to figure out their complex math formula, which is, Mike's question is, 30% minus the utilities plus their allowances. Right. So a lot of people just were like, nah, and it's easier, 3 times the rent, application, 700 credit score. Good.
I have a question for Mr. Korjik. Could you put your information in the chat box? Somebody would like to get a hold of you. So maybe that might benefit you as well. As we kind of wind this down, and Joe, thank you very much for your time. I have found, and this is just me, that the people in the city of Phoenix for Section 8, you call them, they actually answer the phone and give you an answer. You send them an email, and they actually they do not pay for deposits. They actually will respond to your email. I own some property in Cincinnati. If I would have called Cincinnati last Wednesday and asked a question about Section 8, I'd still be on hold today, and I probably would have been hung up on 3 times. And so, and I'm telling you, if you could do Section 8 in the city of Phoenix, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Right. And let me answer Jackie's question.
Sure.
Does the program pay for deposits? Technically, no. The Section 8 housing department does not pay for the deposits. However, some Section 8 tenants who fall under the resident housing program, there's another little division. They qualify through some nonprofits and also through the city from a different fund to pay that I've had myself and some clients get deposits paid for. And then there's the whole VA department, VA hash, which is another division of Section 8 that is specialized only for veterans. And there are some community services and nonprofits out there that will actually help them pay the deposits and the move-ins.
Go ahead.
So yes, they do. The City of Phoenix Section 8 department does not pay for deposits, but there are some programs out there available to some of the tenants for a deposit program.
As always, guys, I'm true to my word. I am very respectful of everybody's time. I want to thank everyone for attending. I always say this, you throw a party and nobody shows up, not much of a party. We threw a party and you showed up and you made it worth our time and our while. Joe, I want to thank you, especially you have not only been a great resource for me, but a friend, and you've really given me a lot of guidance, money well spent. I'm sure if people wanted to reach out to you, they have your contact information after this. Everybody, seriously, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to stop the recording.